when a 9-year-old girl pointed at a police officer in court and said he hurt my brother. No one believed her until the officer stood up and said she was telling the truth. Alana Brooks had never seen a judge before she didn't know much about courtrooms either, only that it was a place where adults talked about where kids like her would live and with who she stood very still that morning in courtroom 4B of the Maricopa County Family Courthouse, her small hand holding on to her foster mom's coat sleeve. The room felt tense, but not crazy busy. Normal hearings came and went. Social workers moved papers. Lawyers whispered. The bailiff leaned on the wall looking bored. The judge, a woman with gray streaks in her hair and known for being strict, was already moving on to the next thing. But then Alana did something no one thought she would. She raised her hand slowly, so slowly that her foster mom, Greta Lang, thought Alana was getting something from her pocket, but then she pointed. Not at the judge, not at her social worker. She pointed to the back of the room, right at a man in a uniform. "Why is he still here if he hurt my brother?" she asked. Her voice wasn't loud, but the quiet after made it sound like it echoed everywhere. In that room, everything stopped. People stopped talking. Someone even froze mid-sneeze. That was the only movement in the room. Greta looked down at her with big eyes. The officer, Sergeant Derek Mallory, stood by the doors, hands behind his back face. Not showing any feelings, Judge Melissa Keene leaned forward from her seat. "I'm sorry, what did you say, sweetie?" Alana didn't move. She said it again, slower this time. "I said, why is he here if he hurt my brother?" The judge blinked. She didn't look at her helper or the lawyers. She kept her eyes on the little girl in the blue hoodie with a plastic butterfly clip in her hair. She looked at her like the girl had opened a door that no one wanted to see behind. The person typing for the court had already stopped typing. Everyone looked back at Sergeant Mallory. He didn't talk right away for about 5 seconds, which felt super long. He just looked at Alana, then slowly, like her question was heavy, he stepped forward. "Your Honor," he said, voice low and controlled. "Can I talk now?" That was not normal, not in family court, not from a police officer, but the judge didn't stop him. Her eyes looked at the lawyers, then went back to Mallory. "Go ahead," she said. He fixed his sleeve, took a small breath and said it. "I remember that night. I remember her brother. I didn't hurt him, but I saw what happened and I didn't stop it." "That's what she means," people gasped. The lawyer for the child safety group leaned forward in her seat like she didn't believe it. Even Greta covered her mouth. Alana didn't move. She just looked at him like she was checking if his face matched what she remembered from months ago. The judge raised her hand. "Mr. Mallory, are you saying you saw something bad happen to this child's brother?" "Yes." "Ma'am, did you report it?" A long pause. "No, ma'am." Greta said a bad word under her breath. The judge sat back in her chair. Slowly, this wasn't just a kid being upset or mixing up people. This was different, something serious. Alana looked up at Greta and whispered, "That's him." But before the judge could say more, one of the lawyers stood up and asked for a break. What happened next would start a lot of talks that no one in that room was ready for. Sergeant Derek Mallory didn't usually talk in court. Actually, in 22 years with the Mesa police, he liked to stay quiet, give security, keep peace, stay out of court. That morning was the same until that little girl pointed at him like she had been holding it in for weeks. He didn't think he would see her again. Not there. She looked taller, her face sharper, but her eyes were the same, big, serious, and looking for truth. After the judge gave the break, the courtroom emptied slowly, people not sure what face to make. No one looked at Mallory directly. A few social workers whispered. 2 lawyers walked out fast, looking down. Judge Keene stayed behind, still sitting on her chair, watching him like she was trying to solve a puzzle. She didn't know she had. Mallory stayed 2 back at the wall where he had been standing all morning, his hands now down at his sides. His partner, Officer Roy Bartram, walked up quietly. "You good?" Bartram asked. Mallory didn't answer, just nodded once and kept looking at the courtroom doors as they closed behind the last person. He knew what Alana saw. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lying. She was right. 6 months earlier, he was called to a scene outside a Circle K store on the corner of Country Club Drive and Southern Avenue. It was just after 10 p.m. A call about teens making trouble. When they got there, another police car was already there. Officer Brian Voss was yelling at a young black boy, probably only 13 or 14. That boy was Alana's brother Jaden. The body camera would later show just a blur, yelling lights craziness, but Mallory remembered clearly. Voss lost his temper, pushed the kid, grabbed his hoodie, and threw him on the curb. The boy screamed. There was blood. His head hit the concrete. Mallory shouted at Voss to stop, but not enough. It wasn't strong, and when the reports were done, he signed off on Voss's story. Bad kid, small injury during arrest. There was no investigation, just a hospital visit and then silence. He told himself it wasn't his job to make trouble, that he did what the department wanted, but the next morning the guilt started eating him and never stopped. Now here it was again, wearing a blue hoodie and butterfly clip. Back in the hallway, Alana sat next to Greta, laying on a wooden bench outside the courtroom. She was quiet but very awake, her small legs swinging under the seat. Greta leaned close and said, "You remember him from that night?" Alana nodded. "You sure?" She didn't talk. She just looked at the courtroom door when Judge Keene called her helper and the DCS lawyer into her office. Mallory was told to wait. Officer Bartram was told to take him downstairs, but Mallory said, "No, if they want me gone," he said, "they'll have to say it to my face." 20 minutes later, he was back in front of the judge. This time no lawyer stood up to stop it. She asked him again to say what he saw that night. He did. "Why didn't you report it right?" she asked. Mallory's voice shook a bit. "Because I thought maybe I could fix it inside the department. Maybe I talked to him, make it better, but nothing happened. And I didn't push. You saw a kid get hurt," she said, "and your first thought was what loyalty." Mallory didn't answer, but the quiet said everything. Behind him, the doors made a noise. Alana and Greta came back. The girl stopped at the railing and just looked at him again. She wasn't mad, not really. She looked curious, like she was waiting for more. That did something to him for a moment. All his years of wearing a badge and writing reports didn't feel important. The judge leaned back and spoke to everyone. "I will ask for a statement from Internal Affairs. Sergeant Mallory, you can go for now, but this is not over." Mallory nodded and turned to leave, but stopped at the door. He looked back at Alana. "I'm sorry," he said, the words very quiet. She looked at him, her mouth open like she wanted to ask something, but she didn't. But when the door closed behind him, it was clear this wasn't just about one bad night. It was about what people choose to see and what they choose to ignore. Jaden Brooks wasn't supposed to be out that night. It was a Friday, and their foster home had a rule: no leaving after sunset. But Jaden promised his sister he'd get her favorite sour candy from the store just 2 blocks away. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't want to hear. No, he was 13, smart, stubborn, and tired of rules made by people who didn't know him. The Circle K was quiet. When he went in, he paid in coins, grabbed a drink, and was halfway in the parking lot when the first police car pulled up. Lights on, no siren. He heard the door slam. Before he turned, Officer Voss was already yelling about hanging around. Jaden tried to explain he just bought something, held up the receipt, but Voss didn't listen. He was already mad, like he needed someone to take it out on. Mallory pulled up a minute later, slower headlights off. He saw the kid saw. He wasn't dangerous, but Voss was already grabbing Jaden by the hoodie. "Sir, I didn't do anything." Jaden yelled. Voss pushed him hard. Jaden fell back, hit the ground with a thud. Mallory flinched, but didn't move. Voss stood over him, breathing hard. Mallory got out, walked over slowly, looked down at the boy. Blood was around his head. Jaden's breathing was fast. "Call EMS," Mallory said. Voss mumbled about another kid fighting. They waited for the ambulance. No one said much. Mallory didn't handcuff him, but also didn't change the story. Later, the paramedics took Jaden away without looking much at them. One of them, a woman with tired eyes, looked at Mallory like she knew but didn't say anything. The report was finished at the station that night. Mallory looked at it, then signed. "Bad kid slipped during arrest." He knew it wasn't true, but the longer it went, the harder it felt to fix it. Jaden spent 3 nights in the hospital with a head injury and broken tooth. Alana couldn't see him by the time he got out. They were in different foster homes. She cried for 2 weeks straight, asking why her brother didn't come back. The workers gave soft, empty answers. "It's complicated. We're working on it. Just give it time." She stopped asking later, but she never forgot his face when he left in the ambulance and never forgot the man in gray uniform who stood there and didn't help. The real story stayed hidden. No charges, no news, just another name on a paper, but Alana remembered. Everything she learned, the badge number on Mallory's chest, she wrote it on a library book one day when no one was looking. It stuck in her head like a song you don't like but can't forget.